This video will supplement the support services module, specifically on academics and eligibility. I want to highlight some of the challenges that academic support administrators face within intercollegiate athletics and higher education. The academic support unit is an integral part of any athletic department and higher education institution. Oftentimes, this unit will have a dual reporting line to both the higher education side or the president and provost office, as well as report to the athletics department. And this is a great sound practice to ensure that ethically what's happening in an academic support unit for athletes coincides with the greater mission of the higher education institution. There's a myriad of responsibilities that athletic academic advisors are in charge of, and these are highlighted in the PowerPoint. Essentially revolve around initial eligibility, so the standards and academic benchmarks that must be met for student athletes to matriculate into higher education. And then continuing eligibility, which are the different standards that student athletes must meet while they're in higher education in order to be eligible to compete. And then, of course, graduation and all the different support services that are used and offered in order to help support student athletes towards the ultimate goal, which is graduation. I will mostly focus this video on some of the issues that are faced among this unique group of individuals within an athletic department. One of the main cultural issues is this idea of shared responsibility. And oftentimes, athletic academic advisors will be the ones who are emphasized when it comes to the success or the failures of student athletes, instead of it being a shared responsibility. So you have the student athlete, and it's a shared responsibility of the coaching staff and athletic administration and the student athlete themselves, of course, and their peers. It's not just on the athletic academic advising group to ensure that that student athlete is eligible and pulling their end in the classroom. Another thing that athletic academic advisors face or work through or navigate is this idea of a restricted academic pursuit. There's literature suggesting that student athletes indeed have this restriction because of the nature of intercollegiate athletics and some of the demands that intercollegiate athletics requires. Specifically, there's literature on how peer culture can actually influence a student's academic pursuit. So if you have a team that's really focused on the athletic success and focusing their time on everything athletics, this would take away from the focus on the academic pursuits of that student athlete. Or coaches' influence. Coaches are cited as the #1 or primary influence on a student athlete during their higher education careers. And if a coach emphasizes a practice session over a study session that the student athlete might need in order to succeed on that next exam, that student athlete, according to the literature, is more likely to choose the athletic event because they don't want their playing time to be implicated. There's also a lot of literature on differences between student athletes. So athletic academic advisors must be aware of some of the diverse issues that student athletes face. So student athletes who are a part of high-profile sports, such as football and men's basketball, face a host of challenges that are different from Olympic sport student athletes. For example, they are in the limelight, they are celebrated, they're the subject of controversy, and one of the things that high-profile student athletes tend to gravitate towards is this understanding that what they put in athletically is going to pay off in terms of maybe going professionally, or the way that they're celebrated, or that the way they're highlighted in the media compared to what they're doing in the classroom. So there might be more of an emphasis on the athletic pursuits when the student athlete feels they have more to gain from focusing their time on the athletic side. There's also a host of literature on some of the issues that student athletes of color face, or African American student athletes, in terms of the stereotypes that are unfortunately common, where peers or professors have been cited throughout the literature to believe they're not as academically equipped or prepared, which has greatly influenced their performance or their self-confidence or self-efficacy in the classroom. So being aware of some of these unique challenges among different groups of student athletes is also an important role of the athletic academic administrator. It's also important to note that less than 3% of academic support units engage in evidence-based practices. And so there's a tremendous wealth of literature devoted to understanding academic success of student athletes or programs that can be put in place to help student athletes succeed academically. But unfortunately, that research isn't being used to inform the daily practice of athletic academic advisors. And so this is something that faculty and those who are invested as both scholars and practitioners are trying to find a way to merge and blend this great research that's being conducted in terms of how it can inform how an academic support unit operates. Another thing to think about for athletic academic advisors is actually identity, and is again well cited that student athletes place a lot of their own identity or self-worth in their athletic success. This is something that they've been competing at from a very young age and been tremendously successful at and acknowledged for their athletic prowess and performance. And therefore, their other areas of their life are less evolved or less developed, and specifically career identity is a big part. Student athletes tend to have lower career maturity or career development compared to non-student athlete peers. And it's important for athletic academic advisors to help student athletes develop more of an identity in their academic affairs as well as their career and life after sport and graduation, post-graduation activities, so that student athletes can be more well-rounded and equipped once they leave their higher education institutions, which is a main role. So not only do we want to help them be successful while they're under our purview, but we want them to be successful once they leave as a person. And the last unique piece that I'll talk about is cross-collaboration on campus. The student athlete is actually expected to see academic advisors beyond the athletic academic advising unit. So specifically, it's enforced by most academic support units, if not all, that they must see their student athletes must see their major advisor. So if a student athlete is majoring in hospitality administration, it's important for that student to be counseled and informed on which classes they should take based on that particular major, and that information is relayed to the athletic academic advisor, who can then take that information to help a student athlete create a schedule that will work and will accommodate both their academic and athletic pursuits. It's also important that athletic academic advisors are seen on campus as just as viable as any other academic advisor. And so this cross-collaboration among the different advising units and among athletic academic advisors across the university is really important.